Hello, my name is Martha Alter Hines with Living the One Light. Okay, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the upcoming month 2, 3, June, July, August-ish, especially June and July of 2025. I'm going to be going through the transits of this upcoming section of time, um, dropping into what might be highlighted for you depending on your ascendant sign. So, as I've said in other videos where I've done sort of a similar thing, I give a humongous caveat that I even kind of hesitate to make these kind of videos because um, everything is so complex, right? So I absolutely cannot be predicting anything for anybody. Even in a reading, I don't like to predict anything. Um, but certainly when I'm not looking at your actual chart and I'm not being present with you, the being, this is general. This is my purpose in doing this is really to help give some ideas and to kind of highlight things that might be particularly alive for you in this coming season. Um, and yet really what I want to be doing is holding space for us each to be dropping into our own soul knowing, right? So it's really not about telling you a truth. It's about holding space for and kind of noticing, like tapping on certain things that might be particularly alive, and just maybe give some guidance that might help hold our hands, over the next few months. Yeah, to be of service and yet to really honor your own wisdom. Okay. So with that caveat, what I'm really feeling called to drop into, especially in this video, is the fact, as I've talked about in many, many, many other places, and lots of other astrologers are talking about this period of time, really the in the southern hemisphere is the winter, the upcoming winter season, and then in the northern hemisphere is the upcoming summer season. It's a really interesting minute. It's a really interesting 2 to 3 month period because it's like we're in a sort of taster mode or a test mode or a trying out certain energies time period. Um, because so I'm recording this on June 15th, 2025. So on March 30th, 2025, Neptune entered Aries. And then on May 24th, Saturn also entered Aries. So now Neptune and Saturn are very, very close to each other, not exactly conjunct until February of 2026, but they're very close to each other in those beginning degrees, that beginning 0 and 1 degree of Aries. But then Saturn is going to be going back into Pisces on September 1st, and my God. Neptune is also going to be going back into Pisces later in 2025. So it's this little moment when both Neptune and Saturn are in the beginning of Aries for kind of like this taster moment in 2025. And then we're going to fully have those energies there, both planets fully moving into Aries in 2026. And then similarly, on July 7th, Uranus is going to be entering Gemini, also just for a little blip of time in 2025. It's going to retrograde back into Taurus later in 2025, and then it's going to re-enter Gemini more fully, fully in 2026. So basically what's going on right now, again, I'm recording this June 15th, 2025. Between now and the beginning of September, we already have Saturn and Neptune in the beginning of Aries, and we're about to have in about 3 weeks-ish, we're gonna have Uranus also in Gemini. So by the time July 7th comes around, we will have all three of those planets in their sort of tester, you could call them like tester signs. They're not testers, but we're going to have them in those signs that they're going to be in just for a little bit of 2025, and then they're going to go back into their other sign. And then in 2026, then we really get them entering the signs that they're moving into. So bottom line for all of us, I feel like this upcoming season, again, summer in the northern hemisphere, winter in the southern hemisphere, is in lots of ways for us as a collective and us individually, a time for us to feel, wow, what do these energies, what does this feel like to have Saturn and Neptune in Aries, to have Uranus entering Gemini, and actually really I would say Uranus with the Pleiades is very, very, very key and important there also. And yeah, and we just also had Jupiter enter Cancer. So Jupiter spends about a year in each sign, which means that for the past year, Jupiter has been in Gemini. So where Uranus is about to enter is where Jupiter was a year ago. So wherever Gemini is in our charts, Jupiter just transited that and maybe was helping to expand things or, doing its Jupiterian kind of role. And now Uranus is going to enter that beginning part of just the very, very, very beginning of Gemini. Jupiter moves way faster than Uranus does, right? Jupiter has a 12-year orbit all the way around the sun. It takes 12 years to go all the way around through the zodiac, whereas Uranus takes 84 years. Okay, so Uranus will be in Gemini way, way, way longer than Jupiter was in Gemini. So in the next year-ish, Uranus is barely going to move into Gemini, like maybe up to about 5 degrees of Gemini next year, something like that. So wherever Jupiter was transiting Gemini, was kind of blazing a trail for all of Gemini, but Uranus is going to take much, much longer to transit all of Gemini, just to be clear about that. However, we can begin to feel into where did Jupiter just transit? Because again, that's maybe an energetic of opening or expanding. And then when Uranus comes through or is coming to those places that Jupiter was just touching, that's more for me more of a quantumizing and aligning energetic. I can feel that in my own life, like where Jupiter just transited and then Uranus is now heading toward. It's yeah, so in my case, my midheaven is in Gemini, and Jupiter just went over my midheaven, and lots of things in my work and everything have been expanding for sure. But I can feel it that when Uranus now is heading toward my midheaven, it's going to be a whole different world. I think it's not so much necessarily about expanding in that sense. It's more like quantumizing and really like really aligning with what is mine to do in the midheaven. How am I really here to show up in the world on these quantum levels, like the ultimate, ultimate, ultimate light of who I am, and deeply grounding and aligning with that. Not just expanding it for the sake of expansion. It's about really, really radically aligning. So you can kind of feel into that in your own chart, in your own life, especially the first half of Gemini, I would say. You might already be feeling the Uranian energy coming. And then what's happening today, like precisely today in the next couple of hours, as I'm recording this, Jupiter is precisely squaring Saturn because Jupiter just entered Cancer and now is at 1 degree of Cancer and is going to be later today, actually, is going to be squaring Saturn at 1 degree of Aries. Okay, and it's also basically, it's squaring Neptune as well. Neptune is at 2 degrees of Aries. But, and so Jupiter will only be in that square with Saturn and Neptune for, a short amount of time, like a few days. But it gives us this kind of oomph, I want to say, of the Saturn and Neptune being in Aries in general, not too far from the North Node. The North Node is at 22 degrees of Pisces. So it's an out of sign conjunction, but it's not too, I mean, it's still, there's that focus of the North Node there. Um, it's like, it's this energy I feel, at least, of being like, hey, let's put this into action. It's not just sort of an airy fairy wish or idea or dream. Especially when Neptune is in Pisces, it can be much more of an ethereal, like dreamy, beautiful ideal. But now with Neptune getting this taster time in Aries, especially with Saturn with it in Aries and Jupiter there right now, in Cancer, squaring it and expanding it. What I'm feeling in my body with that is like, hey, yeah, time to really make this happen. Time to really put this in action. Time to really get clear about your boundaries, the sacred yes, the sacred no. What is going to be of service in the highest way, and let the heck go of anything else now. That's how it's feeling for me. And then that can also be serving the Uranian energy of the quantumizing, right? So yeah, anyway, so that's kind of the general overview of the energetics I'm going to be feeling into with regard to the different ascendant signs and how, what houses that might be falling in for you. Again, it's not going to be exact because unless you work with whole sign houses, which I don't, then our ascendant degrees are going to vary. And so almost nobody has a 0-degree ascendant except in the whole sign method, which again, I mean, I honor, I work with lots and lots of people who work with that, and I love them, and I love, it's a beautiful perspective. It's not how I do it. So that's not how I'm going to be showing it to you. Yeah, so work with the ascendant sign that is yours when I'm talking about it, but also take a look before and behind. Sorry, before and ahead, the one that's yours, because there might be ways that either one might feel accurate for you, even more than the one that's actually yours, depending on how your chart is exactly configured. Yeah. Okay. And I would say actually, especially probably the sign next after yours. I'd have to think about that. Anyway, but yeah, just like if your ascendant is Aries, listen to what I say about Aries, but also listen to what I say about Taurus and listen to what I say about Pisces ascendant. Um, and anything else. And actually, also, what I describe, let's say, for example, about an Aries ascendant would potentially be quite highlighted if any of these transits I'm talking about are strongly aspecting, let's say, your Mars, right? The ruler, quote unquote, of whatever ascendant sign I'm talking about. And it's really complicated. Like the reality is so complicated, but yeah, if you just want to keep it really simple, just listen to what I describe about your ascendant sign. Okay, so let's get started. Mm. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, I would love for you to do that. I would really, really love that. If you feel a desire to support my work, myself, my kids, etc., if you're not already, in some of my courses or other paid things, you can actually join. So you can subscribe to this channel for free. You can also join the membership of the channel. I think the lowest tier is something like $2 or $3 a month. If you feel called to do that, you can also donate. There's different ways you can support this work. If you feel called to do that, just having you here and watching the video and commenting and sharing your own wisdom, that's beautiful. You can also join my free community on my website, livingtheonelight.com. There's such beautiful things being shared in there. That's totally free. yeah, if you're in a position in life when you just need the free offerings, then please enjoy them. And if you feel a calling to support me in a really concrete way and help me feed my kids and myself and all those things, then I welcome that too. But really, having you here is an honor and a joy for me. So thank you for being here. Okay. All right. So let me bring up the chart. This is the chart of right now. Well, I mean, today. I took it back a few hours so that we have a 0 Aries ascendant here. So I'm going to start with if your ascendant, if you have an Aries ascendant, okay? If you happen to have like a 0 degree, 1 degree, 2 degree Aries ascendant, wow. I mean, that's going to be very few of you. But if you happen to, then you have Saturn and Neptune right on your ascendant. And that is a really big deal. That is like, and then you probably have Jupiter also crossing your IC. So this is yeah, I mean, just to say, again, there's going to be so few people, but if you happen to, let us know because that's amazing. And I would guess that what's going on for you is that you're having an opportunity to really put into action like a whole new set of structures for who you are, um, how you're called into the world, really put the dreams into form in a very powerful way, and to really be honoring your ancestry, honoring your familial lineage and all of that. Um, so yeah. Um, okay. But if you have anything other than 0, 1, 2 degrees of Aries ascendant, in other words, you have higher than the first couple of degrees, then um, then this Saturn Neptune conjunction is in your 12th house. And the Jupiter, having now entered Cancer, is probably in your 3rd house, and Uranus is almost definitely in your 2nd house. Okay, so with each of these, I'm gonna, obviously there's no one truth about any of this, but I'm gonna kind of tune in and try to feel the themes that might be particularly alive for you in these few months. Yeah, also with the Aries ascendant, depending on what degree your ascendant is, it's likely, or it's possible, I should say possible, that Chiron might be near or on your ascendant. So Chiron is currently at 26 degrees of Aries and is going to be going up to 27 degrees of Aries this year and then going back in retrograde. And then actually in 2026, about a year from now, big deal, very big deal, but a whole other topic. Chiron is actually going to be entering Taurus in the middle of 2026. That is going to be a big, 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 big shift of energy next year. And yeah, whole thing, I'm sure lots and lots and lots of us will be talking lots about and feeling into together and all kinds of things. Okay. But yeah, so you might want to notice if Chiron is near your ascendant, because that would be a big like healing of your identity and who you are and all of that. Okay. But yeah, so what I'm drawn to in this is that for you with the Aries ascendant, and for most of you with an Aries ascendant, Jupiter would be there in your 3rd house and really possibly helping you come into a deeper honoring of your voice and your emotional body, your emotional intelligence, and really speaking the truth of your emotional needs, your inner child needs, and really honoring and bringing form to your relating with the spirit world, right? And so those two things go together, of course. Really honoring that ethereal, more tender part of you. Um, and Uranus in your 2nd house might be helping you to like Jupiter would have just transited your second house. So that there might be some themes going on with regard to money or getting your basic earthly needs met. So maybe there was some way in which Jupiter either expanded, either there's been like an influx of money or an increase in even debt. I mean, Jupiter can expand in any direction, but maybe brought like highlighted your basic needs in some way, and then with Uranus there, and about to move into Gemini, maybe there would be a way in which you can more radically align, come into some kind of more radical alignment with what is your way of relating? How do you feel truly deeply called in your way of relating to resources, your own value? Where do you resource yourself? What is your relationship like to money, and what it means to be in balance with regard to resources? Yeah. Okay. And again, with all of these, please share with us what aligns, what doesn't align, what resonates, what doesn't resonate, because this is very general. Okay. And then let's move to a Taurus ascendant. So for most of you with a Taurus ascendant, if you have very, very, very early degrees of a Taurus ascendant, then you might have what I just described about Aries ascendant would apply to you, because um Saturn and Neptune might still be in your might be in your 12th house by now, and not in your 11th house. But for most, I'm going to talk about for most of you with a Taurus ascendant, the Saturn Neptune conjunction likely is in your 11th house, with Jupiter finishing up its time in your second house, maybe moving into your third house, and Uranus almost certainly in your first house. If you have early degrees of Taurus ascendant, just again, you might want to just note that Chiron will likely be coming to your ascendant next year or the year after. So that's not quite here yet, but that's coming up. So let me just drop in and feel into this configuration. Yeah. So to have this Neptune, Saturn, North Node, all of this in your 11th house is a really, really, really strong emphasis. I mean, and then Uranus in the first house, right? It's a really strong emphasis possibly on putting into form, putting into structure, vibrationally aligned community, and vibrational alignment, even with your own identity. Like, who am I? And how can I get the real me met and aligned? And how can I be in vibrational resonance with my own being? First house, Uranus in first house, but then also in community, in groups, with friendships, with the kind of the bigger world, like collective. And how can I be of service to be creating structures for myself, but also for others, that aligns with me, um, supports me to be in alignment with myself, and where I can feel in community and I can feel not scared to be in community, that kind of thing. And where I can also really honor my body, because you have a Taurus ascendant, right? How can I really honor this sensual, physical being that is me, the beauty of the earth that is me? Yeah, and you would also be having the South Node right now in Virgo transiting your 5th house. So also bringing attention to that earthy, creative life force energy of you. Maybe really wanting to express itself in this time, and again but somehow bring it into form in a way that's going to honor yourself as earth and honor yourself as the emotional being that you are. Um, and you also, because just sort of similar to the Aries ascendant, you would be having right now a pretty strong emphasis in your 2nd house. So, because Jupiter is likely there, and um, yeah, I would wonder what's going on with in your relationship with money, your relationship with resources, your relationship with, again, kind of the body, like the body needs, just being able to feel comfortable and safe and like you have what you need to survive and thrive. And the wisdom of your emotional body might be a real key in knowing, how to be in alignment with that. Okay. And then let's move to a Gemini ascendant, which is super interesting in these times. So, if you have early degrees, Gemini ascendant, whoa, this is a big time for you, big deal. Or actually, very, very, very end degrees of Taurus. If your ascendant is 27, 28, 29 degrees of Taurus, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of Gemini. First of all, the Pleiades are on, or the Pleiades were rising when you were born. So the Pleiadian energy might really be alive for you, like just in general in life. I would wonder, I would ask, like if I were sitting with you directly, I would wonder, um, what's your relationship like with the Pleiades? Have you felt called to them? They're big, 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 energetic in your chart. And again, they would have been rising right when you were born. So um that's really beautiful. And the Pleiades in general might be a huge ally for you. But then in addition, if you have an ascendant in those end degrees of Taurus or the very beginning degrees of Gemini, you currently have Uranus either already crossing your ascendant or about to. And Uranus crossing the ascendant is a big deal. um, it is like this radical realigning, maybe even restructuring uh like who you are, how you feel called to just be, like who am I? Might be going through a whole radical quantumizing in and of itself. So that's a humongous deal. Um, and then, yeah, if you have those early degrees of Gemini, you might have this Neptune Saturn conjunction in your 11th house. So, the things I just talked about with the Taurus ascendant would probably be pretty relevant for you. And then Jupiter still in the 2nd house, etc. But if you have later degrees of Gemini ascendant, then you might have the Saturn Neptune conjunction and North Node in your 10th house with Jupiter in your 1st house, and Uranus in your 12th house. Okay, so let me drop in and feel into that. Yeah, and another thing that if you have a I'm sorry, if you have a Gemini ascendant of any degree, you just in the last year have had Jupiter cross your ascendant. So if you have Gemini ascendant, period, you just had Jupiter crossing your ascendant this past year, which in and of itself is a huge, huge energy. So, I mean, I would wonder what's been going on for you. Often with Jupiter crossing the ascendant, there's like big new beginnings. Maybe things could open up or go away that are in service of you really expanding into a new level of being, or who you really are in a certain way, or new opportunities might come in, or something along those lines. So yeah, if you feel like it, share with us, what has been going on, because I'd be really, really curious about that. But now you Jupiter would likely be still in your first house, but now in Cancer. And the South Node is in your fourth house, with the North Node in your 10th house. Okay. So for you, this is really extra emphasizing the importance and the need possibly for you to be really, like, you might be really drawn to deeply being present with your emotional self, your emotional body, your ancestry, your these Cancerian themes and the fourth house themes, right? Maybe your yeah, the who am I question coming from the ancestral realms, or maybe you're looking into your ancestry in some way, or maybe you're feeling the ancestry come. Maybe there's an opportunity here for your either literal DNA ancestry, or your soul ancestry and family, um to be coming in a whole new way, and then maybe supporting you, that deep wisdom of the emotional body, the ancestral lineages, supporting you then to bring that into divine form, but real practical form, right? Informed by spirit, informed by the earth, and also informed by your ancestry and your emotional being and your emotional body. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, but again, share with us anything there that's coming alive. Okay, and then let's move to a Cancer ascendant, which is another big, big, big energetic. Hang on one second. Okay, so yet again, um, yeah, if you have your ascendant in the early degrees of Cancer, also, you currently have Jupiter crossing your ascendant. And so, I mean, you're hearing a theme here, right? That there's so much going on in the beginning degrees of many of the signs. And so if you have any, not only your ascendant, but also any planets, or your midheaven or your IC at the very, very, very end degrees, and especially the very early degrees of anything, any sign, then your chart in some way is being highly aspected. So, like, let's say you have your whatever, your sun or your Mercury or your Venus at, 1 degree of Aries, or 2 degrees of Gemini, or 3 degrees of Cancer, whatever. You're going to be having also very, very highly aspected chart right now. And so if you have an ascendant in the very early degrees of pretty much any sign in one way or another, probably there's a lot being highlighted in your life with these energies. Okay. But yeah, so if you have an ascendant in those very early degrees of Cancer, you currently have Jupiter crossing your ascendant. So that applies to go back and listen to what I just said about Gemini ascendant, because for people with the Gemini ascendant, you just had Jupiter crossing the ascendant. And also these early degrees of Cancer, you're now having Jupiter crossing the ascendant. But if you have a Cancer ascendant at all, you will have Jupiter crossing your ascendant sometime in the coming year, between now and the middle of 2026. So everything I just said about the Gemini ascendant, listen to again, and that applies to you if you have the Cancer ascendant also. But instead of in the past year, it's the coming year. So that's a big deal, really big deal. Yeah, so lots of expansion, maybe newness coming, like a new phase of life in some way, or even things leaving so that you can expand on and on and on. And if you have early degrees of Cancer ascendant, then you might have the Neptune Saturn conjunction in your 10th house with the North Node there, and also the South Node in your 4th house. So that would, again, listen to the Gemini ascendant, what I just said for that, because that's what I was talking about there. But if you have your ascendant in the later degrees, the like mid to later degrees of Cancer, then you probably have Neptune and Saturn in your 9th house, with the North Node in your 9th house and the South Node in your 3rd house. And then you you might have Jupiter still transiting your 12th house, coming to your ascendant, but later this year, and Uranus there in your 11th house. Okay, so let me feel into this combination. Yeah, what I'm really drawn to with this is that there's this big emphasis on your 9th house right now, and 9th house often has to do with, like, what I'm called to speak about here is you as a teacher, you as like your relationship to what do I know? What is my intuitive understanding? What is my belief system? Like there might be a way in which you feel called and supported in this time and coming up in the next year or so to really hone, to bring into form some very powerful, maybe new ways of structuring how you bring into form yourself as a teacher. So, of course, that can take many, many, many forms. But then you're also going to be having Jupiter crossing your ascendant, right? So there might be this opportunity for you not only to have these structures come into form and like in more clarity of how you're called to do that, but also Jupiter helping to expand your horizons or new opportunities coming in or new beginnings in some way. Um, and the North Node there really also supporting all of that. So yeah, I would wonder what's going on with you, with your work, with your calling in the world, or maybe you feel called to travel, maybe you feel called to learn a lot, to really expand your horizons in that way. Um, but there's some new form I think that probably is wanting to come in more likely than not. Obviously not for everybody with this, but that's the feeling I get is like there's something talking that's saying, "Hey, it's time now to really put this into action in some way." So I'd be curious, again, share with us what's alive for you there. And also just to note, if you have an ascendant in the mid degrees of Cancer, then you have Sirius, the star was rising at the time of your birth. So you might want to tune into Sirian energy. Maybe you already feel called to Sirius as a star or as a being. I've been doing a lot of videos lately about Sirius. So if you feel called to, then check that out. We have Mercury actually almost exactly with Sirius right now as I'm recording this. And yeah, I'll be making more videos about Sirius coming up because Sirius is going to be really, really, really highlighted this summer and then into next year with Jupiter transiting all of that. And yeah, lots of stuff going on there with Sirius. So yeah, think about Sirius is technically considered 14 degrees of Cancer, but it's not on the ecliptic at all, really, and but it's close enough for me to feel it. Um, yeah, but anything kind of in the mid degrees of Cancer, I would say is pretty alive, probably with Syrian energy. So that's something maybe you can tap into. And then Uranus for you also is there in your 11th house. So it's like you might be getting called into this new form, new structure with regard to you as a teacher, but also radical alignment with vibrationally aligned communities, vibrationally aligned groups, vibrationally aligned uh, spaces of the collective. Um, yeah, either that you're holding for others um, or that you are part of that can nurture you. Because I mean, you have Cancer ascendant, so you need a lot of nurturing. You need a lot, you're a very sensitive being. You need a lot of care for yourself. You need a lot of maybe quiet downtime when you can really feel what you feel and honor what you feel. That's going to be really important, now more than ever, right? Um, yeah. Because if you're holding spaces for others, you really need that for yourself. Obviously, we all do, but that may be particularly alive. Okay. Then moving to a Virgo, I mean, sorry, no, Leo ascendant. Um, and okay. So once again, if you, it's going to be a running theme here. If you have very, 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 very early degree Leo ascendant, then that means that Pluto either already has or is about to or is going back and forth doing this, crossing your descendant. So Pluto is currently in Aquarius. If you have a Leo ascendant, it means you have an Aquarius descendant. And Pluto is currently at 3 degrees of Aquarius. So if you have Pluto crossing your descendant, there might be a lot going on for you around deconstructing, like, you know, kind of unearthing or revolutionizing your way of relating with others, maybe even your identity in the sense of how do others see me? How do I choose to show up with others? How do I choose to show up in relationship? That kind of thing could be a really big energy for you right now. Um, and you would have just had the Mars Pluto opposition right there on your ascendant descendant, which is a very, really calling you into your own power in very, 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 very strong, powerful ways, etc. Um, and if you have the very early Leo degrees ascendant, listen to what I just said about the Cancer ascendant, because you probably would have the Saturn Neptune conjunction in your 9th house. And so what I just was describing would be relevant to you probably. But if you have your ascendant in kind of the later on in Leo, like mid degrees and higher, um, then chances are that you have Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node in your 8th house. Chiron might be near your midheaven, and then Uranus in your 10th house, Jupiter in your 11th house. Okay, so let me feel into this. Yeah. So what I'm feeling with this, again, there's so many possibilities, but with a Leo ascendant, the stereotype with the Leo ascendant, of course, is that you have a need to learn how to really self-actualize, to shine in the world, to bring the creative life force of you really into being. And there is a lot going on in the astrology this year and next year. Next year, okay, in a year from now, the South Node is going to be entering Leo, actually, and we're going to have Jupiter in Leo and Mars again in Leo. And so there's going to be a really, really, really strong emphasis a year from now in the second half of 2026 and into 2027 on releasing the out of balance versions of Leo energy, the out of balance, our out of balance relationship to power, um, and really coming into a much more clear, positive way of being in sacred leadership and the more of the sacred Leo energy. So, so what I'm feeling in this, it possibly could be going on for you, is because there's such a strong emphasis in your eighth house. Um, I wonder, and eighth house often also has to do with power dynamics. I wonder if what this energy could be doing for you partly is helping you to clear out, forgive, North Node in Pisces in your eighth house. Really forgive, bring forgiveness, bring radical forgiveness to yourself and to others with regard to your own relationship to power, to your own power, to creative life force power, to really coming back to the essence of what the healthy, healthy, healthy Leo is. Because with you, with a Leo ascendant, and especially if you have other planets in Leo, which wouldn't be surprised if you do, a lot of people, wherever our ascendant is, often there's other things going on there. But um, you can really be an emissary. You can really be a way shower of healthy Leo energy. And part of us each showing up in that healthy Leo energy can be us clearing out our more, you could say, shadow sides of our own relationship to power and clearing away any self-doubt we have, any imbalance, like being caught up in our egos or that kind of thing. Um, and again, of course, so many of it, yeah, there's so many variations. And I've known a lot of people actually with a Leo ascendant who shy away from their Leo qualities, like their natural ability to shine in the world and that kind of thing. We think of Leo energy as being kind of, up on stage and all that kind of thing, which can be true, but often I've seen with our ascendant energies, the shamanic astrology perspective is that that's what we are in the school of whatever our ascendant is, and I've seen that over and over and over again with a lot of people. Um, for somebody like me, I have my moon on my ascendant in Virgo, and I wouldn't say I'm really learning how to be Virgo, but I have my moon right there. So I'm pretty solid in what it is to be Virgo energy. But for for an ascendant where there isn't a lot of planet, there aren't personal planets right there, um, like the moon or the Venus or the whatever, the sun or something. Um, Often it's not so much that we are that energetic. It maybe we are that, but we're also learning it. We're coming into it. And I've seen that over and over and over again with various people with Leo ascendant who are actually pretty shy and hide. I feel nervous to be that Leo shiningness. And I often wonder also actually with people with like South Node in Leo and maybe Leo ascendant, strong Leo energy. Sometimes there could have been past lives where we were leaders, um, but in our leadership somehow, some tragedy happened, or somehow basically we're scared of our own power, right? So there might be a need to be um, doing forgiving of whatever might have gone on in past lives or in this life with regard to being in a position of power, either that you consciously remember or you just have that you can just let the energy flow in a new way, in a different way. And so, yeah, something about the very, very powerful karmic clearing and healing and forgiving. That's what's really arising for me there. Um, yeah, and then what you can do is be bringing that into form, with Jupiter there in the 11th house, like into a new way of relating to groups, to community, and then Uranus in the 10th house really radically coming into a new aligning with what it means to be in the forms of the structures of society and showing up in the world in a new way. And if you're able to clear, like really come to the vibrational essence of the most beautiful version of what Leo energy is, then wow, our world really needs you, right? Our world needs that healthy Leo energy so, so badly, truly. And you can be that for us. Yeah, it's actually really powerful. Okay. So then now moving to Virgo ascendant, which of course is what I have. So if you have a Virgo ascendant, this will be one of the rare, rare signs right now where there's nothing particularly happening super strongly with Virgo or Pisces beginning degrees. I mean, there's always stuff happening, like Mars is about to enter Virgo, but that's a pretty quick transit. In 2026, Mars is going to be going retrograde in Virgo back into Leo. So if you have an early degrees Virgo ascendant, Mars will go back and forth over years. Actually, I think it's going to be going retrograde at 10 degrees of Virgo, so even kind of the mid area of Virgo as well. So yeah, so next year this Mars energy is going to really be highlighting your ascendant again for quite a longer time. This time in 2025 is just going to be a quick little passover, um but in 2026 that first half of Virgo will be quite highlighted. This first 10 degrees of Virgo. But as of now, let's just focus on these main energies. So in general, with a Virgo ascendant, so for most of us with a Virgo ascendant, um, the North Node is currently transiting our 7th house with Saturn and Neptune in our 7th house as well, possibly in the 8th house. But I'm going to focus on pretend it's in your 7th house. If it's in your 8th house, then go back and listen to what I just said about the Leo ascendant. And yeah, so we have really strong emphasis on the 7th house themes, relationship, how I'm showing up in relationship, etc. And then we have the South Node moving through our 1st house, and we have Uranus in our 9th house heading toward the midheaven, which is a big deal. And Jupiter having just crossed the midheaven and transiting the 10th house. Okay, so this is true for me, but let me just tune into this kind of more in general. Yeah. So what I feel with this is my eye is drawn to that Uranus that's been transiting the 9th house and that's now going to be heading toward the midheaven. So that's a very, very, very strong draw. So there's this, the Jupiter crossing the midheaven could have been expanding our horizons, expanding our sense of how we are called to show up in the world. Maybe new opportunities have come in, or new learning has come in, or just our eyes have been opened in some new way. But then Uranus is going to be coming to that and really radicalizing, like really, really bringing into us into radical alignment and like quantumizing how we're called to show up in the world. So I was talking about that kind of in the beginning of the video, and I definitely feel that going on in my own life. But so that could be a really strong focal point for the Virgo ascendant right now. With Jupiter transiting the 10th house, about to move into the 11th house, and also expanding, bringing in kind of newness to how we manifest ourself in the world, our work in the world, or how we show up in the world, and also coming up to a really strong emphasis in serving the collective, serving community, doing this in a nurturing way, Cancer, in the community spaces. But then what's really interesting about this configuration is that at the same time that there's such a huge emphasis on the outer, like the ourselves in the big world, there's also a very, very powerful and strong emphasis on our seventh house, which is more about relating and how we show up in relationship and how we choose to relate to others and how we learn through relating with others. So if you have a Virgo ascendant, you definitely have a Pisces descendant, which means whatever whatever a descendant sign is, that can often color or be a flavor of how we show up in relationship. And so with a Pisces descendant and ruling the seventh house, often, especially if we have planets in the Pisces in your seventh house, especially personal planets, we can be people who tend to maybe be in relationship in a way that where we give over our own identity or our own power or our own self to the other. So we can get lost in relationship sometimes, right? Often, whatever. And we've just had Saturn, we still have Saturn transiting our seventh house, but we've just had Saturn moving through our seventh house in Pisces, which probably has helped us really hone our boundaries. Those, we can be very sweet and nice and kind and empathetic and all those things, but the Piscean energy can have not enough boundaries at all, right? So Saturn has just been moving through there, helping us really hone and probably give us many lessons about the need for us to have those boundaries, so we don't get drained, so we don't get depleted, so people don't take advantage of us, all that kind of thing. And now Saturn is there with Neptune in Aries, still with the North Node, saying, okay, cool, I'm really good at being in relating with an other or others, but I need some pretty solid self-sovereignty too. And I need structure that is going to deeply honor myself as the divine, myself as light, and that's going to nourish and give me what I need, Aries, so that I can be uh, nourished at just as much as, or if not even more than what I give out, right? Because if I'm going to be expected to do this quantumizing of the way I show up in the world, I can't also be just the Piscean seventh house giving everything away in my personal life or in my way of, like, it's not going to, literally, it's not going to work. Like, it really, really actually won't work. And so I've got to come radically back to myself too, and be deeply, deeply nourishing me, and only like being very discerning about how I show up, but also my sacred yes and my sacred no to um when and how my personal boundaries get crossed. So when do I let an other into my personal life or my business life or any kind of, collaborating, any kind of partnership, even friendship in a certain way? It's going to be a very, very clear and strong sacred yes or sacred no. And it's really key that we listen to those sacred yeses and sacred nos. And it probably hasn't been necessarily our default to listen to that, but really, really have to. We really have to. And I will cheer us all on to be doing that, because that's definitely what's going on for me in a lot of ways. Yeah, it's like we need a Pisces support group or something saying, yay, Pisces. We can have boundaries too. And actually, the world needs us to have boundaries. So let's do it. And I'm doing it. And yeah, I'd cheer you on doing it too. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's actually awesome. It's a whole new world for the highly Piscean beings of us to have these strong, solid containers for ourselves. Yeah, the world will benefit a whole heck of a lot more when we are and we're doing that. So we're doing it. Okay, cool. So now, Libra ascendant. So again, if you have early, early, early degrees of Libra ascendant, it means that you have Neptune and Saturn on your descendant. So again, I just talked about what ascendant and descendant are, but bottom line, there might be really strong new structures coming in terms of how you relate to others. And again, similar to what I just said about Virgo ascendant, Libra ascendant, anybody with highly Libra energies, also similar to highly Piscean energies, but in a slightly different way, you might have a default of people pleasing, catering to the needs of others, like sort of denying what you need. It's not so much about like giving away everything the way that a Piscean energy can be. Like Piscean energy can be very leaky. Libra energy can be more like, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. I don't need anything, but then passive aggressive afterward. Like I said I didn't need it, but actually I did, and now I'm mad because, you know, it can be more like that. And so this Saturn, Neptune on your descendant can be really, really supporting you, similar to what I was just saying about the Virgo ascendant people, like me, to say, oh, actually, I'm going to take radical self-responsibility for knowing my own needs. Number one, knowing them, being aware of them, and naming them, and doing it in a assertive, clear, self-responsible way, in the moment, like as much as I possibly. I'm going to really, really work on that. Like that would be that energy there. So it's not like expecting another person to kind of mind read or something and then getting mad because your needs weren't met, right? And if you have those early degree Libra ascendant, you probably have Jupiter crossing your midheaven, which again is similar to what I was just talking about with Virgo ascendant in the past year. Now this year, you as a Libra ascendant person you're probably going to be having Jupiter also expanding your horizons in terms of how you're being called to show up in the world or given the opportunity to show up in the world. That's really, really beautiful. And again, we can do that so much more easily when we have boundaries. We're not catering to the needs of others constantly. We're really clear. Like, no, here is mine to do. Here are my needs. I'm going to take radical self-responsibility to make sure I get my needs met. I'm not going to rely on others to do that for me. I'm going to do that for myself. And I'm going to put the oxygen mask on first, that kind of thing. Yeah, and actually, interestingly, with that Libra ascendant, you may have Uranus in your 8th house. And so, again, this quantumizing or radical aligning with your own soul and maybe clearing out deep soul patterning, deep, like if there are any power imbalances in this life or other past lives, really Uranus there really helping you to radically clear it out. So again, you with a Libra ascendant, you might, amazing, beautiful qualities to that. I'm kind of focusing more on the what we can work on kind of aspect, but yeah, you might have this sort of shadow side of really denying your own needs and having been trained to deny your own needs, and that likely is coming from trauma of this life or past lives. And so you can just be getting really, really supported to radically let those patterns go and to come into the healthy, healthy, healthy Libra energy of being able to be present with your own needs very, very clearly and be in balance with others. A really good listener, all of those things. Okay. Then Scorpio ascendant. Okay. So with a Scorpio ascendant, chances are good that, oh, sorry, let me go back to Libra ascendant for 1 second because I didn't mention something very important. So with a Libra ascendant, chances are that you have the Saturn, Neptune and North Node conjunction in your sixth house. So that would also bring in this emphasis on maybe, you know, really listening to your body, really listening to the needs of your, like the daily rhythms of your body, the daily routines of your body, like how when you're really trying to honor your own being, there might be just very simple daily routine structures that you might feel called to put into place that can, it's like really honor yourself as a sacred temple, right? It's like if you've been in a mode of constantly giving away to others or focusing on others, this strong emphasis in your sixth house can be so much about just caring, like daily routines where you are consistently just enjoying the sacredness of who you are, and yeah, having just rituals of some kind or something. um but feel, you know, really going with the wisdom of your body, your own knowing, your own soul, the sacredness of you. Okay, so now let me come to Scorpio ascendant. So with a Scorpio ascendant, there's a very strong emphasis going on in your eighth house right now. So you have the North Node, Saturn and Neptune probably in your eighth house, maybe about to cross into your sixth. Oh my God, not eighth house, fifth house. North Node, Saturn and Neptune in your fifth house. Saturn and Neptune heading toward your sixth house, maybe already in your sixth house, but I'm going to speak as though all of this is in your fifth house right now. And then you would have Jupiter probably in your eighth house, possibly in your ninth house, and Uranus in your seventh house. So let me feel into that. Yeah. So you have a Scorpio ascendant, and then you have Jupiter transiting your eighth house. So, you know, eighth house has a similar resonance to Scorpio energy. And so your scorpionic being might be really enjoying this deep dive Jupiter energy in your eighth house, where you really get, you know, strong emphasis on exploring the depths of who you are. And now with Jupiter having entered Cancer, like the emotional the watery being that you are as a scorpionic being already to begin with, like what are the depths of the water? What are those different layers of who I am on those deep levels? That's possibly a very strong emphasis for you right now. And then the North Node is also in a water sign, Pisces, in your fifth house. So it's a very watery quality to all of this. But then the Saturn and Neptune are in Aries now in your fifth house. So maybe there's a way that you're feeling called to really bring form to all this wateriness, right? Like if there's creative and creative life force is a big emphasis going on for you for quite a while here. So how does your creative life force that maybe is coming from those watery depths, how does it want to come into form? Yeah, how does it want to show up in the world? Like, what is the wisdom of it that is like knows the form it wants to take? Um, and then, yeah, Pluto there probably in your third house. So this strong emphasis of, and I'm feeling drawn to Pluto again because you have a Scorpio ascendant. So there's maybe some kind of emphasis of depth of transforming your relationship to your voice, to your own sense of having a voice, that kind of thing. And you have Uranus that's been transiting your seventh house. So again, radical alignment with how you show up in relationship. It's quantumizing of how you are called into relationship, maybe lots of change with that. Uranus will be entering your eighth house. So it's going to, you know, really even more deeply help you come into radical alignment with your soul self, with clearing out any and all karmic patterning that doesn't work for you, um, radically aligning, how you choose to be in deep relating with others or not. Yeah, a lot, just a lot going on there with these watery depths of things. But then maybe the wisdom in all of that really wanting to make itself come into form. And so maybe tapping into the wisdom that's arising through the wateriness of all these energies. But again, share with us, how that resonates or doesn't. I'd be very curious to hear. Okay. And then Sagittarius ascendant. Okay. So, yes. So, similar to um the Gemini ascendant, if you have a Sagittarius ascendant in the early degrees of Sagittarius, then you have Uranus coming to your descendant. So Gemini ascendant has Uranus coming to the ascendant. Sagittarius ascendant has Uranus coming to the descendant. So if you have a Sagittarius ascendant at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of Sagittarius, the early degrees, then but even through kind of halfway through Sagittarius, even, you might be starting to feel this energy of the potential to be quantumizing your way of relating to others, descendant. And as Uranus comes to your descendant and starts to cross your descendant, there might be a really strong emphasis on helping you to radically align in your real divine truth. And it might be, yeah, there could be radical changes or, just a kind of like undeniable need to let go of patterning that doesn't work for you with regard to how you relate or how you're in relationship of all different kinds, especially partnerships, certainly uh traditional like lover relationships, but also business partnerships, other kind of equal relating kind of relationships. So that's a big emphasis in those early, if you have an early degree Sagittarian ascendant. But in general, if you have a Sagittarius ascendant, chances are that this Neptune Saturn North Node conjunction is transiting your fourth house, which brings a really strong emphasis on all those fourth house qualities and needs, the needs of your inner tender being, your inner tender self. And Jupiter would be at the end of your seventh house, probably entering your eighth house, transiting your eighth house. And so that would also, Jupiter being in Cancer is also emphasizing your tender inner needs. And if you have planets in Cancer, that's going to be extra highlighted because you're already a very Cancerian person. Plus, you have the North Node in your fourth house. So, and I would wonder where your moon is. If your moon is being transited, that would, again, even more highlight this. But there's something about, if you have a Sagittarius ascendant, you might be more, sometimes, not always, sometimes more prone to, like thoughts and ideas and focusing on beliefs and all that kind of thing. And this energy might be really bringing you to the needs of your emotional body, the needs of your family, your ancestry, your tender inner being, to be informing and balancing that Sagittarian part of you, which loves to expand and maybe travel and explore and all of that, right? There could be this really beautiful dance emerging between your inner tender emotional body self and then the Sagittarian self of you. And what would also be going on for you is, yeah, and then, oh, right, sorry, and then with the Uranus transiting either your descendant or depending on how your chart is configured, Uranus is either crossing your descendant already, or in your sixth house, or possibly even in your fifth house. But I'm going to talk as though it's in your sixth house. So part of what also could be going on for you if Uranus is transiting your sixth house is this helping you to radically align and be listening to the deep wisdom of your body. And that might be another way you're being called into another way of knowing, right? Again, the Sagittarian energy can be more kind of expansive and the like philosophy and thought about things, like maybe tending to go more kind of mental with it in a certain way. But the Cancerian energy and then the sixth house energy is going to be bringing you to the knowing of your emotional body and your emotional needs and the wisdom of your physical body as well. Yeah. And there might be new forms wanting to take shape with regard to your family or, yeah, your home, like what you consider your home. Okay. Then Capricorn ascendant. If you have a Capricorn ascendant, um, you, especially those early degrees of Capricorn, you currently have Jupiter crossing your descendant. Or if you have any degree of Capricorn ascendant, you have Jupiter about to cross your descendant this year. So again, bringing in a new way of relating to others, a new way of being in relationship. There might be like an expansive quality to your awareness of how you learn through relationship. And and then you would probably have the North Node, Saturn, and Neptune in your third house. And of course, Saturn is the ruler of your ascendant. So it's the Saturnian energy might especially call to you, possibly. Um, but this emphasis in your third house would really be bringing, let me feel into that. Yeah, it's really bringing like this to me, a magical quality to your voice. Like, how does your voice really want to take form, take shape? If you have a Capricorn ascendant, not always, but sometimes there can be a little more out of balance way of having a Capricorn ascendant. It could be a tendency to be a little bit stuck or like emotionally repressed in a certain way, maybe, possibly, depending on where your moon is. But yeah, maybe there's a new like an emphasis on forgiveness with regard to the voice, but then also letting go of your constructs of what Saturnian Capricornian forms need to be, or the notions of what you feel like you should do, and letting that go in some sense, and allowing the quality of your voice to come through in new structures, or really come into a healing with regard to how you feel called to communicate in the world, that kind of thing. And then Uranus likely is in your fifth house. So that also would bring this radical aligning to how similar. I mean, it's really actually it goes together really beautifully. Like how radically quantumizing how you feel called to be in the world with regard to your creative life force. And so again, if you've been in a more of a stuck should mode, then these energies both maybe are helping you to shake free of the shoulds, and just come into the truth of you, the truth of you, the wise being that is you, the healthy version of the Capricorn and Saturnian energy of you. And I would wonder where your Saturn is. I would take a look at where your Saturn is so you can kind of flesh that out a little more. Um, okay. And then Aquarius ascendant. So, Aquarius ascendant, if you have early degrees of Aquarius ascendant, you've probably heard me say this a million times, or you've heard others say this, or you're probably aware of it. Pluto is on your ascendant or is crossing your ascendant. If you have a 3-degree Aquarius ascendant in particular, Pluto is right on your ascendant. Okay, so Pluto on your ascendant is a very big deal. It's like this whole radical it's like you're in this moment of being the caterpillar who goes into the chrysalis, becomes the goop, and then eventually becomes the amazing new butterfly, right? So yeah, this is a big, 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 big time for you. Big time, big time for you. And depending on how your chart is configured, you might also actually have Uranus crossing your IC, which, just would emphasize this radicalizing this all kinds of things in your life, all kinds of structures about how you conceive of, all kinds of things, your home, your identity, all kinds of things could be in radical transformation right now, especially with those early, early degrees of Aquarius ascendant. But kind of later on in Aquarius ascendant, some of these, I'll just speak to this. You likely have the North Node, Saturn, and Neptune in your second house. Again, it's going to differ depending on how your exact chart is configured. So being general here, but if the Saturn, Neptune, North Node is in your second house, then there's this emphasis right now on possibly bringing into form in new ways, how you're gonna like materialize, how you're gonna get your needs met, how your resources show up in your life. Let me just tune into this for a moment. Yeah. What I'm feeling here also with the North Node in the second house, and the fact you have an Aquarius ascendant, people with an Aquarius ascendant or strong Aquarian energies in general, often, not necessarily always, but often can feel different, can feel like they've always been the outsider, or there's something weird about them, and there's something different about them. There's something, they never quite fit in, that kind of thing. And now the North Node is in your second house, and the Saturn and Neptune in your second house can really be supporting you to come into a grounding in your own self-value and like a forgiving. If you have felt different or other or that kind of a thing, to really be releasing, forgiving, letting go of any past hurts around that, and really coming into a grounding, a new centering and a grounding of your true self-value. And so if you're coming into this new identity, this new conception of, who you are and your home and all these kind of things, with Uranus down here, also, the very bottom of the chart, which is really like the who am I kind of part of the chart in a lot of ways, plus the ascendant also being that, with Pluto coming to it, is like, it's okay to be different because we're all different. It's okay to be unique because we're all unique. Like no flower in a garden is going to be identical to any other flower. And you are perfect. Like however, you are a literal manifestation of the divine. You are a masterpiece of the divine. You are an artwork of the divine, right? So, and that's true for all of us. And so these energies might be really supporting you to be letting go of your old forms and do it in a way where you feel safe, you feel held, you feel like it's okay, and actually you're celebrated to be exactly who you are, and to bring into form this, this magical quantum being that is you, with this Aquarian ascendant and all these Aquarian Uranian energies really activating you right now. I would look at also, where is your own Uranus? Be curious. And where's your Saturn? Yeah, I'd be kind of looking for that possibly. Okay. And then last but definitely not least, we have a Pisces ascendant. So, if you have a Pisces ascendant, chances are that there's the Neptune, Saturn, and the North Node are in your first house right now. So there's this really, really, really strong emphasis on who am I, and bringing into form the being that is me, right? And let me feel into this for a minute as well. Yeah, so with a Pisces ascendant, again, it's a stereotype, but often true. You're probably a very, very, very sensitive being. You're probably very aware of others and the energies of everything and everyone. And so um, there could be a need, a desire to really kind of be compassionate and help the whole world in a sense, or something like that, save the world. And yet, the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries could be really helping you say, hey, wait a minute, stop, wait, what about me? Again, it's similar to the Virgo ascendant and the Libra ascendant, all of what I was saying there. Like, that's great that, people, those of us with a highly Piscean energy, which a lot of you have, because if you're drawn to me, chances are good you have a Piscean quality to you. Not everybody, but anyway, lots of us in this community are very Piscean. And so, yeah, so it's great that we have compassion, that all of that. And yet, we haven't really been trained or known how to put the oxygen mask on first. So this is really supporting you to do that. And even to identify, like, who am I? Who is me? Insert your name here. Who am I? Um, and really, like, focus on that and not feel guilty for focusing on that. And you have Jupiter in Cancer transiting your fourth house. So again, this emphasis on your tender inner needs, the needs of your inner child. Again, who am I? What do I actually feel? What do I actually need? What are my feelings? Kind of sorting out, like, what are my feelings and other people's feelings, but then maybe putting other people's feelings aside for a moment and not feeling guilty about that, recognizing that if you're actually going to be of service in this world, you really need to take a moment, take time, maybe more than a moment, to deeply honor and get to know that inner tender being that is you. And then you have Uranus in your third house, helping you to really radicalize, quantumize how you show up in your voice, how you show up in the world. Like, how, when you get to know yourself, you really recognize my own needs, who I am, then that maybe is wanting to come through in voice, in singing, in writing, in any number of ways. But really grounded in who you are and able to use the gifts of the highly sensitive Piscean being that you are, etc. But really, yeah, with a stronger grounding, a stronger set of boundaries, a stronger container. Yeah, that's what it is, a stronger container for you, that honors all of the qualities of you and the inner tender being that is you, the sensitive being that is you, held. Okay, those are all the things. So, yes, please share with us what resonates there, what doesn't resonate there, and I hope that felt helpful. And I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.